Good evening. The end of the 5-week Ontario college strike is nearing an end, but it's not over just yet. First, a weekend of special debate here at Queen's Park, and if the Liberals' back-to-work legislation passes as planned, students will be back in the classroom on Tuesday.
Deputy Premier seeking unanimous consent to put forward a motion which would let us debate notwithstanding Standing Order 81B, Bill 178 today. Do we agree? I heard a no. Say nay.
Take two at Queen's Park today. The Liberals officially tabled back-to-work legislation this afternoon. However, it required unanimous support in order to push it through today. The NDP opposed, meaning they will be back here for a special session Saturday and Sunday. The Liberals not happy with yet another delay after the NDP blocked the bill yesterday as well.
For the NDP to have promised the student they would debate today. They promised the students they would debate today, and then not to allow that to happen. It's just outrageous. It is despicable. It is unconscionable. I am enormously disappointed.
New Democrats will not support the legislation. I want to make that clear. This is anti-worker legislation. It will be taken to the courts because it basically stomps on workers' rights. But the government will get their bill through because they're a majority and they'll get their bill through. But we do have to do our due diligence. The legislation was just received by us a few moments ago. We're going to review it through the evening and we'll be ready to debate it tomorrow.
500,000 students have been off since mid-October. They say enough with the politics. They just want to get back to class. It has been a record-setting strike with students off for more than 5 weeks.
Just want to get my classes back going.
I think that the strike is last for too long, and I'm so worried about my money because we cannot be refunded back.
Again, according to the College Council employer, if everything goes through as planned here at Queen's Park, where there will be special debate Saturday, and the bill will pass Sunday, faculty will then get a day to prep for students' return on Monday, and students will be back in the classroom on Tuesday. Again, we have to watch what happens here over the weekend. Now, coming up, watching all this from the gallery was OPSEU President Smokey Thomas. I will bring you his reaction at 5:30. Well, as we told you earlier in the show, the Ontario college strike could be over by this weekend with students back in the classroom on Tuesday. But first, politicians will be here in Queen's Park working all weekend to debate the Liberals' back-to-work legislation bill after it was delayed for the second straight day by the NDP. And watching all of this go down today was OPSEU President Smokey Thomas. He understands faculty will be back to work early next week. However, he's not happy with how it's all going down.
There's no doubt in my mind it's going to pass by Sunday. They got Tory support on the bill, it's just overkill. So now the Liberals themselves and the Tories are using the students and the strike as a political pawn to hammer the NDP over the head, and the NDP trying to be the friends of working people. I just find it, I don't know, it's disgusting. So they're going to go back. We will be. I have met with lawyers already. We'll be doing some sort of a challenge on it later, right after it's all said and done, because they are still breaking. They're still violating the Constitution of Canada.
And joining me now is NDP leader Andrea Horwath. And Andrea, you understand that the Liberals' majority in the PC supporting this bill, that it will pass. So why is NDP choosing to delay it over the weekend?
Well, in fact, we received the bill for the first time today, and we are going to do our due diligence, and we're going to debate that bill tomorrow. But we have to look at it. We have to know what's in it before we can debate it. But I'm really happy that the students are going back next week. We know that that's happening. I know that they've been through a lot. I feel badly for them. I mean, the Premier sat on her hands for 5 weeks and did nothing. She finally got involved yesterday, but 5 weeks have frittered away, and those students have been put in a very, very bad spot. So I'm glad they're getting back to work back to school on Tuesday, and faculty's going back on Monday. The bill will pass. As you said, the government has a majority, and so they will pass their bill. New Democrats won't support it because it is anti-worker, conservative type of legislation, and we don't think that trampling on workers' rights is the right thing to do. It'll actually be challenged in court. We'll watch that happen. But really, the most important thing in all of this is that the students are back next week. And I think, in reflection, people will wonder, why did this premier not do what she had an opportunity to do for 5 weeks straight and allow this to continue on for so long?
Just quickly, are you all worried with Ontarians heading to the polls within a year that you may get some pushback and anger from students and parents who view you as preventing them from going back in the classroom even earlier?
Well, in fact, that actually doesn't hold any water. I mean, regardless if it was yesterday or today or Sunday, in either one of those scenarios, the students will be back in the same time frame. And so what we have to remember is we're here for a reason. We're here to debate government legislation and to do our due diligence. I don't think anybody would expect myself or our party to to pass government legislation without even looking at it. I mean, that's absolutely irresponsible. And so we've done the appropriate thing. We take our job seriously. We're going to go through that legislation through the night, and tomorrow we'll be ready to debate it. It'll be debated again on Sunday. And as I said, it will pass, and the people will be back in the colleges next week, both faculty and students, and I'm very happy about that because it's about time.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Andrea, and make sure you tune to City News throughout the weekend so we'll have coverage of how that all goes down here in Queen's Park on Saturday and Sunday. I'm Amanda Ferguson in Queen's Park. Another day, another expected delay from the NDP in passing the Liberals' back-to-work legislation that would officially end the 5-week-long college strike. Coming up, I'll give you the timetable of when this bill is expected to pass and when students could be back in the classroom. I'm Amanda Ferguson at Queen's Park. Worth a debate here at Queen's Park after the NDP stalled the Liberals' back-to-work bill once again. Tuesday, that's when college students will more than likely be back in the classroom after a marathon-long, 5-week-long college strike. Now today, the Liberals successfully tabled their back-to-work legislation. However, it was not without the expected opposition from the NDP.
Deputy Premier seeking unanimous consent to put forward a motion which would let us debate notwithstanding Standing Order 81B, Bill 178 today. Do we agree? I heard a no.
Take two at Queen's Park today during a special Friday session. It lasted less than an hour. The Liberals sought unanimous support in order to force college faculty back to work by Monday. The NDP opposed, meaning they will be back here for a special session Saturday and Sunday to debate the bill. The Liberals announced they would be tabling back to work legislation after talks between OPSEU and the college employer failed again late Friday afternoon.
For the NDP to have promised the student they would debate today. They promised the students they would debate today, and then not to allow that to happen. It's just outrageous. It is despicable. It is unconscionable. I am enormously disappointed.
New Democrats will not support the legislation. I want to make that clear. This is anti-worker legislation. It will be taken to the courts because it basically stomps on workers' rights. But the government will get their bill through because they're a majority and they'll get their bill through. But we do have to do our due diligence. The legislation was just received by us a few moments ago. We're going to review it through the evening and we'll be ready to debate it tomorrow.
500,000 students have been out of the classroom since mid-October. They say enough with the politics. They just want to save their semester. It has been a record-setting strike with students and 12,000 faculty off for more than 5 weeks.
I'm glad to go back no matter what, honestly. I don't care. It's the most frustrating thing that they get us like a business. Like, we are people, like, come on, seriously.
I hope so. The classes will resume and we'll go to the college soon.
Are you just happy your semester is saved at this point?
Yeah, really happy. So they just have emailed us that our semester is gonna resume. So
it's just, thank God it's over. So just want to get my classes back going.
Meanwhile, the union head says those students will go back to the books soon enough. He questions the way it's being handled at Queen's Park.
There's no doubt in my mind it's going to pass by Sunday. They got Tory support on the bill, so it's just overkill. So now the Liberals themselves and the Tories are using the students and the strike as a political pawn to hammer the NDP over the head, and the NDP trying to be the friends of working people. I just find it, I don't know, it's disgusting. So they're going to go back. We will be, I have met with lawyers already. We'll be doing some sort of a challenge on it later, right after it's all said and done, because they are still breaking, they're still violating the Constitution of Canada.
So here's the expected timetable. All the MPPs will gather back here for Saturday and Sunday, where there'll be debate. The bill will pass second and third reading and receive royal assent on Sunday. Then the college employer says the faculty will be given a day on Monday to prepare for the students' return, and then students should be back in the classroom on Tuesday. Now, coming up, we will ask the question about how's all the action here at Queen's Park over the past 2 days. Well, how will that impact the outcome of the upcoming provincial election?
Seeking unanimous consent to put forward a motion which would let us debate notwithstanding Standing Order 81B, Bill 178 today. Do we agree? I heard a no.
Boos in the Ontario legislature after the second attempt to pass back-to-work legislation that would end the college strike. The more than 5-week-long strike is coming to a close, but not without political fireworks. Yesterday, the NDP blocked the Liberals from tabling the legislation to get teachers back to work, and then they delayed it again today. So this legislation is expected to pass this weekend. It won't be without political fireworks. And we were wondering, with the political or the provincial election coming up in June of 2018, what impact will that have on the vote? Both with the Liberals tabling, sometimes it's wildly unpopular back-to-work legislation, and the NDP's delaying students going back to school by a day or two. So we wanted to ask our experts and hear what they had to say.
On the one hand, you know, there's a lot of pressure from parents. There's a lot of pressure from students that they want to have the term saved. They want their kids back to school. Very important, of course. But on the other side, the government, this particular government needs the strategic support of trade unionists. And this government can't win without the anything but conservative voter. And the reality is if it's seen as being anti-labor or, you know, stepping on the constitutional rights of trade unions, it's a charter right, the right to strike and bargain collectively, etc. And if it's seen as doing that, especially, you know, rashly, then you know, it could face a lot of political trouble.
I think you have a few stakeholders, right? You have the unions or kind of the labor movement who are going to be upset with the Premier for doing this. I mean, arguably, she let it go on as for 5 weeks, the longest in the history of Ontario, and then did force the back-to-work legislation. I think she has a big issue just with credibility-wise in that she's been championing the working people, saying we need a living wage, and then folks that are actually fighting for it, she's turned around and taken away their right to actually, you know, negotiate that. So that's a big problem she's going to have, and the NDP are going to try and capitalize on that. I thought Andrea Horwath today, frankly, was a bit ham-fisted in doing that. I don't think she's been successful. She kind of sounds angry and frustrated and talking about the process.
Again, here's the expected timetable for this weekend. The MPPs will debate the bill Saturday and Sunday. It is expected to receive royal assent on Sunday. The faculty will return to work on Monday to prepare for the students' return, and then students will be back in the classroom on Tuesday.